So surfing is a flow sport. If you overthink it, it just leaves you in the dust. You've got to really feel it. You've got to go for it. If you're afraid to commit, if you're afraid to take the risk, you'll never ride the wave.
You're tuned in to Making It, Life as an Artist. I'm Taylor. What does it really mean to make it as an artist? Let's find out. All right, cool. Frank Golbeck, let's do this. Okay, question for you just to get things going. What are you most excited about with your creative endeavors these days right now?
I love sharing the mead experience with people. And the other day we were having a mead party, and a young couple walked in mid-circle where we're sitting in circle and using all of our senses to dive into the mead experience. And our mission is to light up people's lives with mead. And this couple hadn't heard that mission be shared, but when they dropped in, we said, here, take a sip of this, and then pay close attention to the first feeling that you get when that sip hits your tongue and crosses your lips, and then share what you're feeling. And the young lady that tasted it said, it's like a light goes on inside my head. And there was really the sense that we delivered what we're trying to do here, which is light people up from the inside with mead and the sunlight and the flowers and the bees and all the good things that go into making and sharing mead with people.
Nice. Because it's literally sunlight.
Yeah.
It's like literally sunlight that goes to flowers, and then bees get involved, and then honey turns into mead. Is that right?
Yeah. The nectar piece is also air and water. So like all the elements that make life on Earth possible get mixed up in the mead, and then people get to drink it. And we're figuring out how to make that experience translate when we're not there. Because I think we're pretty good at making people feel it when we are there, but are they feeling it when we're not there is the question. And I think that's where art comes in, and where the crafting and experience through the like complicated retail distribution systems, hospitality, all of these systems that we inherited from our ancestors. There's an opportunity to find the path where people engage with good regenerative mead, and then they go, oh, life is beautiful and I am connected to it.
Yeah. And not every other beverage does that. I mean, I feel like you as a person, as like an ambassador for your mead, you clearly can like bring people into that experience and that feeling and that, like what you feel with mead. But then I'm hearing what you're saying, and when you're not there, you're like, is this translating the way that I want it to? And other beverages I don't feel like they have that like formula or that like that desire in the same way to do that, to share that light and that warmth and the honey and the bees and everything. Like I feel like your product, your brand has like a greater scope and a bigger vision than most.
Yeah, I think.
And so like that's the challenge, right? Is like everyone's kind of used to the other format where there isn't that extra, all the other layers to it.
Right. I mean, sharing mead with you at the art tent in front of the art gallery in downtown Oceanside on a Friday evening, we would touch it, right? Like people would show up and be like, what's this? And mead and art and mead. And then there were a number of evenings where this circle gathered around this tent, and it became community, and it became beauty, and it became connection and friendship and a sense of awe. And is that do people even know they're missing that? I don't think so. So we have to wake them up. We have the opportunity to wake them up, to explore a new way of engaging with the world, to connect through that exploration, and in a way transcend the ho-hum, just getting through mentality, and regenerate into these creative, joyful, present humans.
Yeah.
Probably not what people are doing when they're drinking a beer.
Right. Totally. Totally. I mean, And it's interesting how when you're, you know, mead isn't as well known as beer or wine. You know, it's this thing that existed for thousands of years and then kind of has like it's there. Some people know about it, but it's a niche market. And with that comes a lot less competition for you in the mead space, but also there comes like the necessity to educate your clientele on like what is going on, what you're doing, why, how, all the things that are important, right?
Yeah. We could, I think that's an opportunity to really grow, is doing that education really intentionally and beautifully, and meeting the customer where they're at. You know, people are pretty bandwidth tapped as far as I can tell. So how do we make the learning experience go at their pace and be something that gives them life as they experience it, and then makes them empowered to share it and maybe even co-create? And that is something I think we do well once people get down that rabbit hole, is we can work with them to make meads that align with their vision. And that's like a decent chunk of our business, is making meads for other people based off their ideas and recipes and stuff. But the number of customers that we actually do that for a year, I think, is much fewer than we could. And then the customer that doesn't want that, how do we make what we offer something that works within their world? So that at a dinner party or at a gathering with friends, they feel empowered to share this magic that is mead through our mead offerings through them.
Yeah, I like that you use the word magic because that's definitely a part of it. Okay, before we dive into the magic element, why don't you just real quick tell our listeners, for those of them who haven't had mead before, why don't you just give a little synopsis of what it is, where it comes from, what the approach is, everything.
Mead is, yes, mead is magic. Mead is sunlight you can drink. Mead is the alcohol you get when you ferment honey. So take honey, mix it with water, add yeast. The yeast will eat the sugar in the honey water mix and turn that into alcohol. Up until the early 1900s, when Louis Pasteur discovered that alcoholic fermentation was the result of yeast, the language to describe fermentation was "God is good." Um,
And wants us to be happy.
exactly. The Mayans drank mead, and there was a god of fermentation. And in order to be blessed by the god of fermentation, you just had to love getting drunk and sharing that experience with other people. And then that would bless your mix of honey and water, and turn it into a fermentation. So there are honey traditions, fermented honey drink traditions around the world, from the Mayans that I mentioned to Africa 40,000 years ago. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors are finding honey in trees that have fallen over in a storm and flooded with water, and now the honey water mix is fermented, and our hunter-gatherer ancestors are trying this honey water mix, and their hunting and gathering gets a lot more celebratory. And there's a hypothesis that they took this technology of fermented honey and a leather bag, and there's archaeological evidence of fermented honey remains in a leather bag from the first site where like they found the first bows and arrows 40,000 years ago in Africa. And then you see this technology spread out across the world from there to India, to China. It's mentioned in the Rig Veda. It's 10,000 years ago in the Jihu River Valley, cradle of civilization. There's a fermented honey, rice, and grape drink. And then up into Europe and Scandinavia, where Shakespeare talks about it, and Beowulf drinks mead before and after slaying monsters. And, you know, it's in the myths and the fruit of the gods, the ambrosia of the gods. There's an argument that they were drinking mead and putting mead in people's path. So mead is this magical drink that was experienced by humans all over the world, but it was forgotten about because beer and wine are cheaper and easier to make, and mead is hard to make and more expensive. So my grandpa gave me his last bottle of mead, and I had a just rose-colored evening with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and we decided we wanted to make and share this stuff with the world, that if we could bottle up this feeling that we had, we would make people have so much fun they wouldn't have time to make each other suffer. So that's what we do. That's the magic.
Nice. That's a nice intention right there.
Yeah.
Alleviate suffering, because if people are feeling good, they don't want to inflict it.
We ain't got time. We ain't got time for suffering. We're having a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's great. Nice.
And then, I mean, I've learned so much about mead, about how the bees have to visit 2 million flowers to make a pound of honey. And so by the time you make a bottle of mead, you're using a half a pound of honey. And that's 1 million flower visits in a bottle. So that's a layer of magic we can dive into, and how it captures an ecosystem. And when you drink the mead, you are drinking an ecosystem in a glass. There's also the creativity of mead, that you can add all these different ingredients to make all these different styles of mead. And sometimes those ingredients can be quite potent, whether they're on the generally recognized as safe Federal Food Drug Administration list or not. There's tradition of mead being a medicine, and in a lot of cultures it opened the door to the other world. So we can talk about that too.
Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So there's this guy named Edwin Rash who writes this book called The Encyclopedia of Psychoactive Plants. It's a big old book that has hundreds of entries in it on all different kinds of plants and how they affect consciousness and what their legal status is and ways that they've been prepared throughout history. And there's a big old entry on mead and the historical ways that mead was used in different cultures. And so the Celtic druid people saw mead as the sacred drink, and when it was drunk intentionally, it would open the shamanic portal to the multi-dimensional perception that people are capable of, but sometimes don't create space for in their lives. So if people are into that, a drumming track and a glass of mead and some quiet sitting and some deep breathing, the drumming track gets your heart and your brain into coherence, and then you start kind of going into that theta dream state, brain waves. And with mead animating the journey, it can open up a lot of stuff going on. And I love to practice with that. I love to share it with other people. And I would say if people are interested in that kind of work, a glass of mead can really help open up the portal.
Nice. That's cool. I like that. I'm into that kind of work. I've never tried it with mead, but I'm pretty sure we have a bottle in the fridge that would be perfect for that. Okay, why don't you go into the creative process that it took for you to go from trying mead from your grandfather. I remember you had a story about like you were hanging out with your grandfather, and then there was somebody that came and visited, and he was kind of in a grouchy mood, and then your grandfather gave him some mead, and then all of a sudden he was like a different person, and you were like, what just happened, grandfather? And then he's like, that's mead. And so then that went to, you and Teresa trying it or having a great time together, and then you decided to turn it into a business. And at that point, you've got to do a lot of R&D, I'm assuming, and then you also have to build out a business structure. Why don't you go into that process a little bit?
Beautiful. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, so I was 8 years old. My first memory of mead, I'm hanging out with my grandpa at his little tasting room at our family's apple ranch up in San Bernardino, Yucaipa. He'd retired from managing the apple ranch and had a little tasting room where people would walk in, and I was hanging out behind the bar with my grandpa when this grumpy looking tall old guy walks in, and I sink into the back of the bar because the guy's intimidating and not the friendliest. And my grandpa just offers him 2 little 1-ounce tasters. Like, first one, guy knocks it back. Second one, he drinks it, and then he's laughing and smiling and telling stories. And no one else was in the room, but I'm like, what just happened? That man just transformed. I'm pretty sure my grandpa just gave that man a potion. And then after the guy left, I was like, Pop, what was that drink? Oh, that's mead, the adult drink made from honey. So honey stuck in my brain and couldn't do adult drinks, but and then read all these epic stories about mead, Beowulf, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, the stuff that warriors and elves and wizards are drinking is the stuff that my grandpa transformed this guy with. It must be real magic. So I needed to get my hands on some. There was none to be had until I was helping my grandpa clean out the attic and his garage, and he gave me his last bottle. And so then I share it with Teresa, and we have this just rose-colored evening. Tastes like drinking the California Golden Hour, sweet and rich and warm, but refreshing and cool. And there was a sense like, okay, if we can make this and share this with people, it is going to be good. And we made some, and pretty soon people started drinking like 5 gallons in a night. We live in a co-op in Berkeley, and so having parties is easy. And pretty soon one of my co-founders was at one of these parties, and he's like, Frank, people love this stuff. I'm like, yeah, they do. And he's like, they would give us money for it. I was like, huh, I guess that is how that works. Like, he was like, yeah, in America, if people want something, they give you money or give someone money, and then that person gives them more. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a crazy idea. So we were seniors in college at the time, and we had the Navy in front of us, both my co-founder and I. So I didn't have to worry about it too much because I knew what I was going to do after graduating. But along the journey in the Navy, I collected honeys from around the world and realized if I came home with these honeys and made mead out of them, I'd be able to like share these parts of the world that I visited with the people I made the mead for. So Longan fruit honey from Thailand, like this beautiful floral, it's like the mix between jasmine and mango. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And acacia honey from Africa, and the sense that an ecosystem is captured by the bees when they collect nectar from all these flowers around their hives, right? They fly up to 3 miles from their hive and then come back with all these different nectar sources to create these different honeys. And then we collect that honey and turn it into mead, and that mead is a reflection of that honey, is a reflection of that ecosystem. So when people drink that mead, they're drinking that ecosystem, and they're experiencing an essence that comes from that ecosystem. And that really felt like a transformational step, because when I was in the Navy, I was in charge of a warship, and I realized if I stayed in that system, it would kind of be difficult for me to maintain my joy and my sense of justice in the world. And we were off the coast of Kuwait, helping Marines do exercises with the Kuwaiti military. And I realized like the United States writes a check of about $100 million a day to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. And I could spend a whole life in the Navy and not affect that system at all. Or I could go home and make a quality product from a local ingredient and change the alcohol industry on some level. And so that was like the big vision and the big goal, but then turning that vision and goal into a reality did, as you say, take a lot of research and development and business model development. So we got back from that deployment, and my wife asked me what I would do if I had all the time, money, and energy in the world. And I was like, that's a real question? And she's like, it's the most important question. So that question sat with me for about a week, and then I got back to her with I would make mead and share it with people and farm and live in community. And she was like, that's beautiful. Let's figure out how to make a living and do that. And so we saved half of our money then on while we were in the Navy for the next couple of years so that we could have a big nest egg to kind of work with and diversify with. So we knew mead was going to be a part of it. We knew intentional community and property was going to be a part of it. And I started figuring out how to develop multiple streams of income, because successful mead businesses were rare. And I knew that I didn't want to get myself into a position like when I was in the Navy. We ran a ship aground while I was on watch. And the big lesson learned from that was, if you don't know where you're going, slow down and verify where you're going and then proceed. Unless someone's shooting at you, in which case, like, then you need to run away. But if you're not getting shot at, take it nice and slow and figure it out. So that was the big lesson. Take it slow, diversify the income so that you can like be really deliberate in the process of the business development. And that meant starting small. My co-founder Joe and I recruited a third co-founder who was better at finance than we were, and he was a sales and marketing guy. Joe was. Praveen was our finance guy, and I was our operations and production guy. And I had only made batches in the 5-gallon scale after, learning from some of my home brewing friends and the internet. Um, and so we needed to scale up to a commercial batch, which meant we needed to find a commercial facility. And we sent out emails to 30 different breweries and 30 different wineries. And we got 3 emails back. 2 were from breweries. One was from Ballast Point saying, hey, sorry, we can't touch honey. Like, we need to touch grain. One was from Green Flash saying pretty much the same thing. And then so, like, of the 60 emails I sent out, I got 2 no's, and 1 winery wrote back from Valley Center, Triple B Ranches, Chris Brumel. He wrote back, said, sounds interesting. Come on up and let's talk. And so drive out to Valley Center. I pour him some mead that I'd made at home. He's like, this is cool. Yeah, we could help you. We'll do a custom crush. So we contracted with him to use his equipment, and he taught us how to use that equipment at that scale. And we made our first batch of about 1,000 bottles. And we sold them for $20 each. And we made back our money and a little bit more, like kind of enough for the next batch. And then like gas and dude, figuring out how to make a living off of mead making took years. And honestly, we're still figuring it out, right? Like, beer usually has like a 5x markup. Wine usually has like a 4 to 5x markup. Mead, I mean, we're at that markup and we're still paying ourselves minimum wage and cash, paying our workers, paying our bills. So it's a going concern, but taking it to the next step where we can actually pay ourselves a professional wage is like hopefully right on the cusp here. We've got a contract that we negotiated with the distributor in an out-of-state opportunity, and then the buyer has to negotiate with the distributor. But with the government shutdown, there's like delays to the approvals that need to happen at the federal level. So hopefully when this contract comes through, it's gonna really help our cash flow. And 15 years of doing a business, I would say the big lessons learned are diversification is great, but don't over diversify so that you're going crazy and chasing your tail. I think 3 lines of revenue are like the sweet number. And so for us, that's direct to consumer through our farmers market, direct to consumer through our website and online mead club, and then distribution to custom contract clients. We do have a tasting room in Oceanside, but that's just open Fridays and Saturdays to kind of give people a place to come in person and experience it head on. Otherwise, we're running a bar or restaurant, and that's not really what we're in business to do. So those 3 business models have allowed us to kind of weather a lot of different storms, and having a really healthy markup. We're now at 8x markup on cost of goods, and we're still not making it fast enough. We're still selling out before we're ready for the next batch. So it's definitely still a work in progress, but it's paying for itself. It's paying our workers, and we're starting to pay ourselves more and more with it.
Nice. There's the inside scoop.
Dude, it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, 3 different avenues of business. I think that's a good way to go. I have a similar thing where I've got like 3, basically like 3 different avenues to go after it. And, mine is painting, and you can reconfigure that in different ways. And like the custom, my custom art for people is kind of similar to your custom mead for organizations, right? So like it's your mead, you're making it, but it's for them and their purpose, and it's under their branding and everything like that, right?
Translating their vision into a product that they couldn't make themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to say who those are for, right?
No.
I know they're a big deal though. That's tough. That's too bad, because like that's a big feather in your cap that I feel like is legitimizing. Like
I am excited. I get to take my kids to Wizarding World of Harry Potter in a couple weeks, and I'm gonna drink mead there. They do have mead there.
they have mead there.
They do.
Okay. Great. Well, if I make it there, I'll give it a try, and I'll just
Yeah,
like see how it tastes.
if your listeners want to go and drink mead at a magical place and open up the bridge to the magical world, I think they could do that.
All right, I like that. Yeah, listeners, go check it out. You might like it. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. Okay, so like back to the magic element. Like you're a wizard yourself, my friend. And you live your life by magic and through magic, and it's cool. And you've always been into magic things, right? And like stories, the world of magic. You know, it's cool how it all comes together for you through mead, like wizards and warlocks and witches and all that, and like, yeah, it all ties together for you.
I mean, I think one of the things I loved about the Harry Potter books was this idea that like love is the strongest magic. And I grew up with those books, right? The first one came out when I was like in fourth grade or something, and I didn't read them until I was in high school. Um, and then in college, they came out and they really changed from these like kids' roll doll kind of adventure stories to like these deep philosophical works on the nature of reality and our power within that reality and what happens when we use that power for good or for selfish ends. And um, the noble characters who live fulfilling and good lives use their power to help and love others. And I found in my education that the people I looked up to did that as well. And it really grounded my ideals in a practice of service and joy and regeneration. And that to me became this practice of magic, of consciousness and reality interfacing and finding that interface and doing everything that I could to make life better for my community and my friends and those I hadn't become friends with yet, and myself, and the living systems around us. So I think that's what I mean when I say the word magic. And hopefully it's a party that anyone can join. It's a huge party when you start looking at life that way, that when we show up to share our gifts and joy and love and service, there's space for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's inclusive. It's yeah, like the heart, the heart frequency, the heart like emanation, the resonance off of that is like this inclusive, connective element that like is attracting people. It feels good. It's welcoming, and yeah, you can clearly see that you have that magic, that heart magic at the center of your business approach and in your mindset in general. Like that's how you live your life, is through community and like positive ethics and values, and like yeah, what was the word that you used, from the noble characters in the story, and like you surround yourself with those noble characters and your whole team at Golden Coast Mead, who I've gotten to meet. I think a lot of them, it's like everybody, you can look in people's eyes and you can feel it, and I feel like that's what, brands stand for things, and you can feel in every way that people can interact with your brand, from the taste, from the branding, the design, and then also like meeting you guys at the farmer's market or at the tasting room or anything, anywhere. It's like you can feel this like nobility to it.
Thanks, brother. Woo! I mean, we're human too. We often make mistakes, so we definitely try to own them, and we definitely try to make it right when we do. And hopefully, the paths of communication are wide open for everyone that interacts with us, because we want to make them happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that stood out to me when you were talking about like the environment and the like tasting the environment of a place, it's kind of cool because it reminds me of like I have a little more experience in wine than any other alcohol, and with wine there's this concept of the terroir, right? And so what you're tasting in wine is basically the combination of like the rocks, the soil, the amount of sun, the amount of mist and fog and rain and all these different, like the combination. So like like a Sonoma, something like a Pinot Noir from Sonoma is going to taste totally different than like a Cabernet from Napa because you're getting different everything. And so you're tasting the terroir, um, and you're really like tasting the local area and what it is. And it's cool that mead is like the same concept. It's just above ground and what's growing and flowering, right? So like it's neat. And I guess beer would be kind of a similar thing, but beer is less like localized, it seems like, unless you're going to be like using the wheat from this one field, but it doesn't feel like it has the same like terroir environment thing that like both wine and mead do.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of mead as this multi-dimensional expression of a whole ecosystem instead of just a plant's experience of the climate for the year and the place. Um, so, and then, oh man, I mean, sadly, a lot of beer is just like giant monocultures of barley and giant monocultures of hops. Like if you've driven through eastern Washington after the hop harvest, you just see dust as far as the eyes can see, and then metal poles with wire going between them because that's like the hop harvest, right? Um, so the ecological impact of these beverages is significantly different. Wine, there are a lot of responsible wine growers, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to maximize the output of one kind of plant. Um, with mead, what we're trying to do is plant ecosystems that produce nectar and create financial incentives for more of those ecosystems to get established. So in Brazil, where up until the tariffs, a lot of our honey was coming from, people were incentivized to protect and preserve rainforest because they had their bees in them and they could gather honey from these forests that was economically superior to cutting down the forest. So there's an opportunity with mead to preserve and expand biodiversity and nectar production around the world through the alcohol production business model that doesn't exist when you look at beer and wine. So it's both a way to share it and a way to expand it. When you drink mead, you can share the ecosystem and the essence of the flowers and the uniqueness of that ecosystem, and you can incentivize more of that ecosystem to be planted and tended and produce nectar. So we like to think that mead is the drink of magic and regeneration in a very sincere way.
Yeah. Yeah, because the monoculture, monocrop, I mean, you see it up here. I'm in San Francisco right now, and north of this is Sonoma and Napa, and like so many areas, like you talk to the locals here, and they're just saying that vineyards are just taking over all over the place, more and more and more. And like you look at them, and it's beautiful, but it is just these like big monocrop hills and fields everywhere, and yeah. Biodiversity, regenerative farming, that's not happening there. And it's cool, yeah. With mead, you can kind of have like any. I mean, you just need flowers, right? Like lots of and like the different types of flowers, and you can do it off of any kind, right?
Yeah. Put bees on top of a productive ecosystem and they will find the nectar. And ideally, if that ecosystem is productive enough, there's no competition between the managed honeybees and the native pollinators. There's plenty for everybody. That's really the vision that we're driving towards. We have a nonprofit called the Regenerative Apiculture Working Group that has a white paper and a draft regenerative organic apiculture standard. We're raising money to make that first test happen to show that it's possible. So we're hoping to really make this impact over the course of our business's life and diversify beekeepers' opportunities, because whether you know it and your listeners know it or not, like beekeepers are struggling. Last year, something like 67% of the commercial honeybee hives died in the United States. So,
Why is that?
For a long time, we've had this foreign mite. It's like a parasitic mite like a tick that lives on the back of the bees, and it sucks their hemolymph. They don't have blood. It's like blood and lymph fluid mixed together called hemolymph. And so the mite sucks the hemolymph and passes a disease to them. And most commercial beekeepers treat for that with this miticide called amitraz. But the mite has apparently evolved a resistance to the amitraz. So now the beekeepers don't really have a treatment for this very destructive mite parasite. And they're just losing their hives left and right. And that's the result of pollination as a service business model. Modern beekeepers generally have to have over 1,000 hives to make a living. And in order to make money with those 1,000 hives, they have to ship their bees to do pollination. So about 80% of the country's bees ends up in the California Central Valley pollinating the almond crops every year. And that exposes the bees to the mite, to the diseases that are vectored by the mite, to the only source of food that's out there, the pollen and the nectar from the almonds. So it's like eating a single food for a couple of weeks that depresses the bees' immune system. The stress of shipping them around on the back of the trucks depresses their immune system. And then the exposure to the pesticides and other industrial agriculture chemicals that they get exposed to, that all has this kind of synergistic effect. But the last year, the mite's resistance to the mite treatment has like really taken off and caused pretty catastrophic deaths across the commercial beekeeping industry. So we're hoping that with this regenerative organic initiative, we can help the bees and the beekeepers by giving them a business model beyond pollination as a service. And they can focus on making regenerative organic honey and selling it at a higher price point, because the market will be educated what that means and that it's the path through this bottleneck for the bees.
Dude, whoa. Whoa.
A lot, yeah.
That's a lot. Oh, okay. Fuck.
I know.
And so is that why you were going to Brazil for your honey?
Yeah, well, and organic honey in our current system, you need 27 square miles of organic pasture to make certified organic honey. Getting that in the continental U.S. is, to my knowledge, impossible. Hawaii has some certified organic producers. Logistics from Hawaii have proven difficult to overcome. We envision, for part of the regenerative organic certification, doing a bit of a end run around that that 27 square mile requirement. And that means having an outcomes and practice-based certification. So if the honey tests clean and the beekeeper certifies that they kept their bees organically, then we should be able to certify that organic whether they were on 27 square miles of organic pasture or not, because our hypothesis is the right density of bees on the right density of forage will keep the bees on the organic pasture and not having to go out to the unorganic pasture. And then if the honey is tested, we should be able to call that organic.
Interesting.
Yeah, so all of our customers are helping us make that dream real, and the more mead that they drink and share with their community, the more we can make that happen.
Which is cool. It's like a vote for your environment with your dollar.
Yes.
It comes back to that.
And help us build the future that we want to enjoy and share.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good work, Frank. Good work, man.
Dude, well, your support, man. I got how many pieces of your art up around me that sometimes when I'm like banging my head against the wall, there's Ganesh, and I'm like, Ganesh, I would like some help removing some obstacles, please. And then I've got all these. I got Odin, I got Valkyrie, I got a fairy lady, I got Arjuna, I got Aphrodite.
Yeah.
We did all those.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yep. Art is, supporting the cause as well.
I mean, mead is art, I think.
Oh, it definitely is.
In its highest expression, it takes honey and turns it into something we can consume and be inspired by in a really social and transformational way. So hopefully that's what art is: inspiration and transformation and beauty and pleasure and something we can hear.
Yeah, it's taking like raw materials and then doing something to them and then making it so that we can interface with it and like interact and understand it.
Meaning and pleasure, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna jump into the question section here. So the first question is, for creatives of all backgrounds, styles, types. What's your advice for those getting started, or those on their way?
I think for those that are moving into doing it full time, having multiple streams of income definitely depressures the situation. So to the extent that those can be built before diving in, that has, I think, served us. If you've mastered it already and you can just get out there and then sell your work for what you need to survive, that's another approach that I have seen people do and make work. But if you're figuring out the mastery and you want to get into it, having other sources of income kind of, for me, has helped de-stress turning this craft into a livelihood. For those that are just getting started, I think following that passion, following that curiosity, following that joy of creating and sharing, and like knowing that the first 1,000 things you create will be a little bit underwhelming or have room for improvement, but take people's critique for as much as you paid them for it. Um, and know that, they're not judging your soul when they talk about your art. It might feel like that. And so you share this thing that you've made and you take the constructive critique and you improve and you let go of everything else and you commit yourself to that ideal that you had in your mind when you were originally setting out, which for me was like my grandpa's last bottle of mead. It was golden. It was sweet. It was rich. It was warming. It was refreshing. It was transformational. So that's what we try to make every time that we make the mead. And if we fall short, we figure out why and how and ask advice from people that are better than us and triangulate our perspectives. I think that's a big thing that I've learned, is that I could get kind of myopic and kind of focused on a few variables, and then I would share it with trusted friends and critics, and they would taste it and they'd be like, Frank, do you notice this? And I'm like, what? And then another person would say the same thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've backed myself into a corner and I'm missing the forest. I'm only paying attention to the bark on this one tree. So getting constructive critiques from multiple directions to triangulate reality is, I think, a really valuable step on the journey. And Taylor turned me on to the artist's way and morning pages and journaling and just like finding a venue to just let it all come out so that the inner critic gets quiet and you can get back to that signal that is yours, that's motivating you to create things and share things that are really special. Whew, that's a lot. I've got one more.
Do it.
Okay, Susan Rudd, who runs Prairie Rose Meadery and back in the day wrote the standards for mead judging from the beer judge certification program. She once shared with me, Frank, there are meads that you like, meads that your customers will like, and meads that win awards. And trying to find the part where all three of those things overlap is going to drive you crazy. Sometimes you'll do it, but focus on the meads that you like, that your customers like, and then you'll be enjoying yourself and your customers will be giving you money. And then if you win awards, that's icing on the cake. Like, that to me was an amazing piece of advice, because it just clarified, that overlap to focus on. So the multiple streams of income, connecting with your passion and curiosity, and then not being afraid to craft your first examples and share them with people and take the positive critique in a constructive way, and then commit yourself to improvement and going outside of your own perspective to get better, and then finding a venue to just really clarify your own signal and let go of the noise through morning pages or another kind of artistic practice that exhausts the inner critic, and then focusing on what you like that your customers like. Those would be my 7 pieces of advice.
Perfect. Love it. All right. Perfect. That's great. That's great. They got bonuses there. Nice job. All right, cool. This next one is a little bit of manifesting here. So, assuming everything goes really well and goes exactly as you want it to, you can have as much growth and success as you can envision. What does an ideal 5 years from now look like for you and Golden Coast Mead?
Bless you.
There you go.
All right, 5 years from now, I just turned 45, and I'm paying myself enough to, well, my wife not have to work anymore. Great. And being able to pay our kids' college savings plans. And, yeah, that'd be wonderful. And Trump has disappeared from public life. And maybe, we've atoned for our... Dude, I found out that my great-great-great-grandfather, that's right, my grandpa's mom's dad's dad, so 3 greats, helped build... He started the company that built the California Central Pacific Railroad. And
Whoa.
yeah, his name was Doc Strong, and he was a pharmacist up in Dutch Flats, kind of near Nevada City. They prospected, or they surveyed the first site of the Transcontinental Railroad going across the Sierra Nevada, and then started a company. And he raised like $50,000 from like Leland Stanford and other people. And then they went and lobbied Congress and got the Pacific Railroad Act passed, which then funded the building of the railroad. And so, like, ancestrally, I think I'm kind of dealing with an ancestor who was kind of a, like, let's do this kind of guy, who maybe didn't consider the impacts that way of thinking would have upon the world. And so in me is this desire to see that harm balanced and healed. And in me is a desire to see, like, all the harm that comes with our system of liberty and sovereignty be balanced and healed. And we come through this interesting time to another reality where the state is not this, like, leviathan that subjugates people to it, but instead is like this joyful community that empowers each other and is in right relationship with all of its relations. So for me, that means, like, regenerative business is the way that people do things, and regeneration is seeing the essence of each individual, whether they're people or communities or ecosystems or states, and we're helping build the capacity to express essence in everything that we do. So there's no longer extraction and destruction as a human behavior system. Instead, there is healing and empowering and beauty and joy creation baked into the fundamental design of everything. And, I think that means that a lot of things unravel, but we pick up the threads and we reweave them into a new way. And so, like, drinking, I think a lot of people have done a lot of harm the way that they've drunk alcohol. I've done a lot of harm the way that I've drunk alcohol in the past. And, like, nowadays it's about mindfulness and it's about empowerment and about that deep pleasure that isn't about quantity, it's about quality and intention. So we're sharing quality and an intention, and we're helping people heal in that way. And we found an audience that understands that and shares that alongside us with our mead. And the bees and the ecosystems and the beekeepers are thriving, and the customer is celebrating and transcending and regenerating as a result.
There we go. That's a nice future.
Yeah. Concretely, that means probably, 3,000 to 5,000 square foot facility with our own packaging line. And we're making batches for other brands nationally. And we're selling our own robustly online. And the club is like a cool community of creativity and support. And we're doing like 3 million in sales. Yeah.
Okay. 3 million in sales. I like that.
Put a number on it.
Let's write that down. That one's going to happen. Put it out to the universe. All right, nice. Okay, cool. Manifesting, done. Now we're on to the definition. And you answered this before because you've been on this podcast before in its former format. that was just audio, but now we're looking at each other. So we'll see how you answer this. And you kind of got into some of it a little bit ago, but Frank Golbeck, what is your definition of art itself?
I mean, I think art is like a way of being. Um, it's an act of creation and expression and connection with something much bigger than the self, and a way to translate that connection into something that can be shared with others. Um, and hopefully, in creating and sharing it with others, it awakens in those that receive it that same awareness of connection and their power to connect and create from that connection. So art is a process of awakening and a process of transcending and then coming back and sharing the potion with others.
I like that. Transcending and then bringing it back and then sharing it with others. Which is cool because it kind of has a little bit of, who's the author? Joseph Campbell. Yeah. It's like, it's part of, it's the hero's journey. And it's cool because it does embody all the parts of the hero's journey. There's like the fear element, there's the going out on your own, there's facing the demons and the challenge and the struggle, and then learning that it's actually been like part of you the whole time, to it, and then bringing it back and like showing it, sharing it with others,
and being a resource for them as they're on their journey and witnessing them in their journey. And I think that's been a bit of a challenge for me lately, is like wanting to witness everyone but having limited bandwidth to do so.
Yeah. You've got a lot of things going on in your life and your world. I feel like you could have 6 clones of yourself and be out every day doing 6 different things, and you'd still not like get everything done that you could or would like to.
Carol Sanford, my regeneration teacher, talks about if we listed all the projects and problems that we could solve, we'd drive ourselves crazy. But if we focus on the nodes where our essence and our desire to serve others and our truth all come and coalesce, and focus on that in the moment, that's where the magic gets unlocked. And so, Teresa's my life partner, and I try to really be accountable to her in getting the things that need to get done for our shared existence to thrive done. And then the rest of the stuff, it comes up as it comes.
Yeah. 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 And like from those nodes, ideally that's where like the multiplier thing happens, where you can, get 2 birds stoned. So like you, rather than trying to run all over the place and do a bunch of different things, you do the thing that is the most important, and then that amplifies out and like ripples out into other things.
Exactly. And when we do our thing, what we say we're going to do, I have found that when I do what I say I'm going to do in service of a bigger project, it's like the other pieces fall into place so much easier.
Yeah. 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 There's a book called The One Thing. And it's got some interesting ideas in it. And it's basically, it says, the premise is that like everybody has all these to-do lists to do all the time. And he's like, you don't need that at all. If you just ask yourself in the moment, what's the one thing that's the most important above all things? And then you do that. Or like, what's the thing that can, by doing that one thing, it can eliminate other things too. Like you focus on that, then you never like have to actually multitask. You just do one thing at a time, like 100%. And then that takes care of a lot of other things. I like to do kind of a combination of both. Like, cause I also don't want to forget about things. Like there are a bunch of little obscure things in life that we have to do.
Yeah. But those then kind of go into the background or become like, well, I'm taking care of these little things so that big thing gets taken care of.
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, why don't you tell the listeners where they can follow you, where they can connect, where they can buy your mead?
Gladly. So we're at goldencoastmead.com. We're in Oceanside. Our tasting room mead shop is open Fridays from 3:30 to 7:30, and Saturdays from 12:30 to 7:30. I try to be there on Fridays when I'm not at one of my child's sporting events or school events. Um, we have 5 farmers markets in San Diego. So that's a great place to meet us in person and try our mead in person. Our website has details on those. And then we've got our mead club and our online shop on our website at goldencoastmead.com. There's also a form you can fill out if you're interested in getting a custom recipe turned into a professional sized batch, and we can help with licensing. We've helped over 28 different meaderies get started on 3 different continents. So we like to help with all that kind of stuff. And what else? We've got Instagram. We've got a bit of a podcast called the Regenerative Mead Podcast, where we talk more in depth about regeneration and mead. And those would be the main ways to. Oh, our email list has over 5,000 people on it, and we try to send out about 2 emails a month with events and insights into what's going on at the meadery and announcements about new mead releases and deals and sometimes poetry and storytelling.
Yeah, I'm on that email list, and I've always loved what you put out there. It's like just a beautiful breath of fresh air from a different time period, feeling like your poetry and your calling on the god Odin, or like stories from antiquity. It's cool. It's a great email list to be on.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. That's one place where we get to see your creativity in full glory.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then we're going to take a little break and go into part 2. But before we go, can you give us one last bit of off the cuff wisdom, is what I like to call it. It can be about anything. Just wisdom. First bit of wisdom that comes to your mind.
My wife, Teresa, is a luminous being whose mission in life is to be an instrument of God's love and peace in the world, which when I met her and she shared that, I was like, what, really? We're like 18 and 19 years old and you already know that about yourself? So she's really a profound and wonderful human. She's a labor and delivery nurse and has helped something like 4,000 children come into the world. Something like 3,000 women become mothers. She's had a lot of repeats. But she connected me with this idea called the center of stillness surrounded by silence. And it's a form of meditation and prayer where you really quiet your mind and find that center of stillness surrounded by silence, and then go into inquiry and, carry a deep, meaningful question into that space and ask that question and then listen. And it's been really profound how it's affected our lives when we practice that practice. And I feel like your listeners would appreciate that's there for them if they can go into that center of stillness surrounded by silence and carry a big question and then listen. Drumming can help. Drumming can help make that space, but you don't need a drum if you can just find the stillness and the silence and carry the question.
Love it. Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah. Thanks, Teresa.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to be right back after these messages. Inspired? Your support means a lot to me. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your pods, share with other artists, and let's keep the creativity flowing. Yeah, it's nice. It's like, I always think of this metaphor of like kites and getting kites in the air, and like your streams of income that you're talking about. Those are like kites. And it's kind of hard to get a kite into the air. It takes a lot of like focus, attention, maneuvering.
Balance of the right things.
Right. But once you can get a kite into the air and it kind of can like do it can find its like, pocket of wind and you can get the right elevation, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't take as much to keep it there. Like it builds its own momentum. So I feel like, the name of the game is like getting kites in the air and getting it going, and then you can do another kite, and then you can do another kite. And,
that's very liberating. Instead of like getting this machine up and running that can crush you.
Yeah.
You're like getting this graceful, joyful, fun kite up.
Yeah. Yeah, and then using the currents of the wind and like the natural forces that exist.
Playing with it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All
Tugging.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, speaking of natural forces, one thing that you and I like to play with occasionally are the natural forces of water and waves and the ocean. And I'm curious what you would say about how surfing plays into your life as a creative person and like what it does for your heart, your soul, your mind, and like what kind of metaphors you see come out of that.
Thank you, brother. I love surfing.
Me too.
It's something I try to do at least once a week. If I don't do it once a week, I get grumpy. If I do it once a week, it's like, I was deeply immersed in the beauty and pleasure and joy of this world not more than 7 days ago. So I know that it's real and I know that it's abundant. Like you will never be able to surf all the waves in the ocean. There's just no way. And it's humbling in that way, but it's also just so gorgeous and gratitude inducing. Um, so surfing is a flow sport. If you overthink it, it just leaves you in the dust. You've got to really feel it. You've got to go for it. If you're afraid to commit, if you're afraid to take the risk, you'll never ride the wave. So I think it helps us get ready for life in a lot of ways. You're never going to be perfect, but you can adapt and respond when you're paddling for that wave and you're not quite in the right spot. You can adjust your balance and get to your feet as soon as you can, and then you're dancing with the dynamics of the wave, and sometimes it's beyond your wildest dreams. I've been playing a lot lately with those thoughts that I have right as the wave is coming, and like sometimes it's like the wave comes right to me, and sometimes it's like I thought something wrong and the wave just disappears. One time I was out at Ocean Beach Pier, and I'd never shot the pier before, right, where you ride through the pilings of the pier, but I grew up in Newport Beach and seen people do it at Blackie's, and I grew up getting to surf in Huntington Beach and watch pros do it at the contests, and it was just always like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. You're going like 15, 20 miles an hour, and you're going to be weaving between these giant concrete posts that hold up a pier that are covered in barnacles, sharp barnacles. That's insane. But man, I want to do it. But it was always so scary to me. And this day was this kind of magical day where I was with my friend Aaron Taylor, and we'd agreed that, okay, we're going to go surfing, and we're not going to do anything that isn't a total hell yeah for the other person. So we'll propose an idea, and we'll let it land with the other person, and then based off their response, we'll just totally flow with the response. We're seeking the response that's a hell yeah for both of us. So we go to this place called Lower Garbage, and it looks so fun to me. We're up on the stairs looking down at the wave, and I just see people catching waves left and right. I'm like, dude, that looks awesome. And he's like, I'm not feeling it. And like, I remember the rules. And so I'm just like, okay, what do you propose? And he was like, let's go to this spot. And we go to this spot, and he's like, what do you think? And all I see are just like shore break waves that you cannot surf. And I'm like, I am not feeling this. And he was like, all right, how about we walk down this footpath? And I'm like, okay, I don't know what else to do at this point. So we walk down this footpath, and like, this is just a normal day, man. Like, but this girl walks up to us who's like got green hair, a tutu on, and like a dancer's, like electronic music dancer's outfit. And she's walking this little like poodle whose hair is dyed rainbow colors. And we're like, oh, hey, how's it going? And she's like, I'm reading this book by this Russian author. It's basically like a modern Alice in Wonderland. And we're like, okay. Like, apparently we're in this Alice in Wonderland journey. And we just like walk down this path, and it's gotten to the point where I'm no longer having any expectations at all. And we end up overlooking the little corner south of the OB Pier where there's this seawall made of concrete, and the sun's starting to set, and the waves are just glassy and there are only two people out and it is just so fun. The waves look so fun. And I'm like, maybe this is the day where I get to shoot the pier. And so we paddle out and I catch a couple waves and they're super fun and the sun's getting lower and it looks like the way that the water is just like oil glass black almost with the sunset colors reflected. It's like the water and the sky are one surface and the waves are just coming up and they're lining up perfectly and it's like, oh, I could totally shoot the pier. And each time I go to paddle, right as it's time to pop up, I just go, this is scary. And like the dynamics of the seawall bouncing the wave energy off of the shore and the seawall at the same time with the incoming wave, the wave just disappears instantaneously. Like as soon as I have this thought, this is scary. And the sun is setting and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to catch this wave and shoot the spear, I just need to commit and do this. And I finally just go, okay, this is it. This is the last wave. It's going to be too dark. I have to do it now. And I paddle and the wave lines up and I shoot the pier. And it's just this elating moment where I've just like surrendered to all the fear and just been totally in the moment, going between these pilings, the wave perfectly lining up. And then the reverb off of the steep angle of the beach causes this backwash to hit the wave right as I exit the pier, and this just giant explosion of foam happens, and I land in this foam ball and find my feet, and there's a bonfire and a drum circle on the beach. And to me, that's what surfing is. It's this magical co-creation with the ocean and the waves and the consciousness that exists amongst all of us and between all of us and nature. And it's an opportunity to interface with it on a day-to-day basis. And if you think too much, you lose it. And if you surrender to it in joy and playfulness and poise and presence, it is just beyond your wildest dream.
There you go. I like that. It's funny how it's cool. Well, it's funny. It's cool. It's interesting how you can experiment with your mindset and your vision and your state of being, and then interfacing and interacting with the real world, the outside world, and how you can like experiment with it. You can I know like surfing is a place you can do that. Any other sort of sports, making art, you can do it. Like, and really what you're doing is experimenting with your intention, and then there's emotions that can come up and that you can dance with. And are you going to, like, fear is a huge one that can come in all sorts of situations, and then we have the choice to give into it, to fan the flames of fear, or to put something over that, put a glass over the fear candle and put it out, or like diminish it, and then choose to go another direction. I was at a little festival the other night in Sebastopol called Bloomfest. It was the first night, or the first festival, and the dance floor was an opportunity to do that. And like, there was some really great DJs, Scott Nice, Polish ambassador, and it was just this awesome like dance floor. And it's kind of like these environments are these like sort of neutral spaces, and then we can interact with them in whatever way we want. And at one point, the thought came to mind to just like, my buddy Brian gave us these little handheld disco ball lights that you could just hold, and like it would like make like a little dance party right in like around you where you're at. And I had the idea to go like meander through the crowd and just like see what I could do and like what kind of fun could be found. And then immediately the next thought was like, ooh, I don't know if I should do that because I don't know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. And I started like, I went from like my heart space where I was like, oh, I want to, like, maybe I should just try this, like experimental feeling. My heart was like, just go, have fun, see what's going on. And then my mind immediately went into like fear mode of like, but what'll happen? What's going to happen? Maybe you're not going to want to be where you're going to end up. I don't know. And the same thing can happen with a wave. Like, oh, there's a good wave. You start paddling and then it starts to build and then you're like, oh God, maybe not. But if you have an intention and you see a positive outcome, and you can like subscribe to that and stay connected to that, or you can focus on the fear and then not go for it. And I ended up going and dancing around the dance floor, and it was super fun and had a blast. And everybody I interacted with, it like lit them up in a cool way. And yeah, it was neat. It was just really like a fun experience. And like, yeah, we can experiment with like what wolf are we gonna feed? Is it the fear wolf, or is it the like the trust wolf?
Yeah, the joy wolf, the creativity wolf. I've been, holding a lot of fear around our external world, and I think your perspective on that gives me a sense of empowerment that, yeah, we could fear all these unknowns, or I could fear all these unknowns, or I could look at them and go, oh, there are more unknowns. Where's the wave here? Where's the opportunity to shoot the pier? Where's the perfect moment of presence and intuitive connection with the great system that I'm just a small part of, that allows me to do something that I've always dreamt of doing, and then come out the other side to drums and bonfire and exploding foam balls.
Right.
A dance floor of infinite possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a wave. There's lots of ways that can be disastrous. There's lots of lines that you can carve that will put you in the wrong place where you're just gonna get blown up. Or like mountain biking. The rule of thumb with mountain biking is don't look at the rocks that you could potentially hit. Don't look down the cliff that you could fall off of, or at the trees that you could hit. You want to look at the line that's going to get you through it all. Because there's this beautiful, and this is the cool thing about surfing, is like your body's going to go where your eyes where they track. So what you have to do, part of surfing, is like training your eyes to look, to the top of the wave, so that you go up high and then turn your head and look back at the foam, and then you go there and then turn your head again. So you're training yourself to see the correct line that's gonna get you where you want to go. Same thing mountain biking, you want to look 20 feet ahead of you and like see the line. Same thing in life. Where's the out? Where's the success? Where's the solution? Let's see it, and then we'll naturally, our bodies will go there. But it is so easy to see all the rocks and the trees and the cliffs, because there appears to be a lot of them right now. And but yeah, it's like a mental exercise. It reminds me of that quote, I think it's by Einstein, where it's like something like problems cannot be solved with the same level of consciousness that created them. And so like what we have to do with all these problems today that are happening all around the world and in our country is like we have to shift our consciousness to a higher level to find the solutions. And yeah, I almost feel like that's like, it's kind of neat because it's like a creative effort on a national and global scale. Like, how do we raise all of our consciousness levels above the problems that are happening right now, and then hopefully affect the people that are directly causing those problems? How do we shift consciousness of people that aren't looking for their consciousness to shift? That's like a big challenge. I mean, shifting one's own consciousness when you're looking for it, that's one thing, but shifting someone's consciousness who is like benefiting from not shifting is a whole different thing. Those are some of the thoughts that keep me up at night.
Right? And I think art can be a venue to explore those dynamics. We made a mead with a guy who's a practicing wizard, and he's been a practicing wizard for about 5 years, but before that he taught meditation for like 20 years. And alcohol was not something that he partook in, but when he drank mead, he was like, this affects me differently. I like this. And he started working it into meditation and kind of magical offerings, healing offerings. And he wanted to find a mead maker that could make a mead with all these herbs and spices that he loves to use. And we collaborated on this mead that I've noticed when I pour it for people, I don't really need to preface very much. You just drink the mead, and it's like the effects of the herbs come through without any preface. And so for people who are maybe resistant to understanding their sovereignty and the deep impacts of the way that they think affecting their worlds, maybe there's a way that we can just share these things that are transformative without any explanation. Experience this, and we're here to talk about it with you and help you make sense of it. Whoa, is that unlocking what we were talking about at the beginning? Like, we don't need to craft this container, we just need to craft this art really well, and then when people open the art and experience it, the container will be crafted for them.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think that's how it has to be done. It's got to be done so that the message conveys itself.
It's self-evident.
Yeah, because we can't always be there, and we can't always, tell the story and do the shtick every time. Like,
but it's there, like the deep material's there if people need it, right? Like when
they're
engaged, like Alex Gray's work has an explanation if you look for it. But when you just look at Alex Gray's work, you go, wait, what?
Yeah. And it has to be inviting and accessible to kind of everybody. Yeah.
Or at least your audience, right?
Yeah, your general. Yeah. Well, and there's the whole concept of like the 3.5%. You know about that?
Yeah. So when 3.5% engage and get turned on, the rest of it just happens.
Yeah.
Like that.
That gets it going. So maybe like we don't need to worry about, how to get like this current presidential administration to like have a shift of consciousness. We just need to shift the consciousness of everybody that we're connected to, and maybe that would be enough to like get things rolling. And I feel like those those noble elements, those noble aspects, that like those self-evident truths and things like that, like those are the things that we can really lean into. That, like, I've been thinking about like this, my buddy Colin, who I'm staying with, I talked to him about a lot of stuff like this, and talking about like how to craft like a logical argument where people almost like can't really like work around it, because these truths are self-evident, like, liberty and justice for all. You believe in that, right? We've all been, pledging allegiance to the flag from the beginning. Well, part of that is liberty and justice for all. Okay, justice for all. What does that mean? And what is liberty? And it's like, well, it's freedom, and justice for all means like everybody here, right? Okay, cool. Well, so is it that, or is it like only certain groups of people within that? And why would it be that? And so like you can like with these like this like this like logical jujitsu, I feel like you can sort of like get these ahas to happen in people. I feel like maybe that's like something that should be happening more in conversation and on the bigger scale picture and in art.
Beautiful, brother. Yeah, self-evident truths. I hope beauty is a self-evident truth. I'm interested to hear if you have thoughts about spaces where deep conversations can be held between parties that don't necessarily agree. If you've encountered those kinds of spaces recently, I feel like it's been a while since I've encountered a space where parties that don't agree can talk about big, deep topics from a sincere desire to expand and synthesize to a higher truth.
No, there haven't been a lot of that. It feels pretty split for me in my world, like there's the people that I know agree on things, and then there's the people that I know don't. And sometimes I'll talk to those people about things, but it's kind of tough, and because everybody's getting their perspectives, their sources are very different, and then the storyline and everything, like the whole like worldview and perspective is like a different storyline depending on where you sit. And so like having conversations is really tough because it's like everyone's seeing things from an upside down view from each other. So one person says one thing on one side and they're like, yeah, well, you don't,
That's
that's
not my reality.
that's not my reality, and that's BS because that person said it, and I don't care, they don't carry any weight for me, and vice versa. Like, so like everybody here is talking, and everyone here is talking, but no one's like, it's really difficult to connect on anything, and there really aren't that many spaces. Everyone's kind of in echo chambers between themselves, and
It
that's
makes me hopeful though that enough of us have gotten tired of that and will respond to the call for real connection and real synthesis. And I think what we're doing right now is an extent of synthesis finding. And I find that when I engage people sincerely in a one-to-one kind of way, there's an opportunity for synthesis if we have differing opinions. It's just bringing that to public spaces would take some choreography or a really intentional container creation.
it would, and I think it would take um a sound and pure intention also, because there are like shows and groups and whatever where they like, it's like one liberal guy debating like 20 conservative people, and it's more about like
Prove me
the
wrong.
the gotcha moment, yeah, and the prove me wrong thing. Like that's not about connecting and like seeing where we can come together. That's more about uh like
And
making a
that
show of
is
it.
performance art.
Performance, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like who's gonna win, and getting that like the sound bite that's gonna get your bass to get turned on rather than and body slamming the other side. It's like, and that's like what we need to do is connect on the things that we all have in common, and those places, and I feel like that's a big problem, is that people are only seeing division and seeing differences between them and the other side, and they're then holding that as like we're different so we can't get along, and then that creates the other, which allows all sorts of terrible shit to happen. So, but like everybody loves their families, everybody loves their partner, everybody loves their kids, everybody loves their mom and dad and grandparents, and like wants the best for their friends and family. And I think people's experiences of life is like so much more in common than people think, and like the things that matter to them, and that's where, yeah, I don't know. I think those are the things that really could and should be connected. Like I know there's a lot of people. So I come from a Hispanic background, and then we live in Southern California. There are a lot of people from like Mexican descent or like Latin American backgrounds. But then I know a lot of people who live in the Midwest and then like the Northeast and in places where like and in Colorado where they just don't interact with people that have a Hispanic background. And so then they see these ICE raids, and all they've heard from conservative media is that Hispanic people are drug dealers and part of the cartel. And so then they're like, yeah, good, get rid of them. But they don't realize like the conservative side is always talking about family values. And Hispanic family values are so deep and so connected and so loving and so like family oriented. Like it's it's on the extreme side, like so much love and connection for these family groups and then like community groups. And I feel like if people just had that opportunity to experience that, they'd be like, oh, these people are amazing. And if if they consider me family, like I'm in. Like this is a beautiful thing, and we're all actually the same.
I know a man who came out to Southern California having preconceived notions about the Hispanic community, and he's from the Midwest. And when he came and spent time in Fallbrook, which has a lot of Hispanic community, he was like, "Oh, I felt more connected with them than I did with the non-Hispanic community out here." It was like, whew, yeah, there's such an opportunity to build bridges. And I think about my heroes in the art and media and entertainment worlds, Jim Henson and Walt Disney, and how they were doing that constantly, right? Like they were creating spaces and stories and characters that a lot of different people could feel safe in, could bring their families to enjoy, could see themselves in, and share from a place of joyful vulnerability. So yeah, maybe there's an opportunity to create spaces of joyful vulnerability again, and build those bridges.
Yeah. This we were talking at the music festival we were at. I was with some friends and we were just having a good time listening to these awesome shows, great bands, and just looking around and everybody's just dancing and feeling good and enjoying themselves and enjoying each other. And one statement came to mind, my mind, and I said it to my buddy, and it was that music creates an environment where people can be themselves, and they can feel like okay, like safe to be vulnerable, and that's why it's such a community space. Why it brings people together. Why everyone can just like vibe together. You can have a concert and it brings all these different people together from different backgrounds, and everybody can just like sink into it, and everyone's kind of holding space for everybody else to do their thing. And music is art, and art, mead is art. There's like creative craft and skill, and like creativity just creates this space where, for one, it takes courage to engage, and that courage involves vulnerability, and then by everybody engaging in it together, we're all witnessing each other's courage and vulnerability, and we're like cheering. We can like cheer each other on, and it can be this like, that's what's so collaborative about art and music and festivals. Like that's where like Lightning in a Bottle, Burning Man, all these different festivals, they're places where we can engage in these processes individually and then collectively, and like support each other through it, and then that can be training ground for life. And that's one thing about the power of a music festival, I think, is like from the outside it looks like it's just like fun and games and experimenting with whatever, but like actually it's like training on multiple levels for your real life outside of it.
Approach the world with an open heart.
Yeah.
I think about the first Coachella that I went to, and like the sense, I could kind of be friends with anybody here, and then going to Burning Man and being like, wait, I literally can be friends with anyone that I walk in front of, and we connect, and there's a sense this is fun. Otherwise, you just walk away and you disappear and no one notices you. But no one remembers you because there's just so much stimulus there. But like in those moments of like, whoa, you're cool. You think I'm cool because you're staying here too. We're friends. Like, I can be friends with anybody now. And then, oh man, I'm involved in my kids' schools, and thinking about the opportunity that our kids' schools have to empower our kids that way is so profound, and like that formula is so precious, and it's so unique for each person. Like what actually liberates a person to that point, that liberty and justice for everyone is the starting point, and then self-expression and confidence and the word that the bees are, when they're not selfish, they're selfless. When they realize like by contributing to this system in a positive way, they make the whole system better, and that benefits them.
Selfless. Okay.
There's a word for it.
It's not that, but it's something close.
Okay. It's okay. It's a mystery. One of your readers, one of your listeners will chime in the comments.
This is it, you guys. You know what you're talking about. Is it time to go?
It was wifey. It was
Oh,
wifey.
nice. Nice. Yeah. Selfless. Yeah, part of the team. I don't know. It's so cool that bees are like that. That they're just part of this colony and they just give of themselves completely.
At some point, some queen bee was like, all right, I'll stop having babies and I'll just build the hive. You have all the babies. And then another queen bee, because like evolutionarily, every female was fertile, but somehow they like deactivated in the females the fertilities so that they could just serve the hive. It's funny, the word is just dancing in my brain, but it's not coming out. And so they gave up their own reproduction to serve the whole hive. And out of that comes this abundance of productivity and nectar and honey and pollen and all of the good things in the hive.
Altruistic?
Yes! Altruism.
Nice. Yeah, they have like a natural altruism. Yeah, it's cool. And it seems like when humans are pushed into extreme situations, like times that humans get into sometimes, there's like some of those like really higher values really take over and people act really altruistically.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're in some interesting times. We're gonna see some interesting altruism go on. That's what's going down. All right. Well, Frank, you got anything else you want to tell the people?
Thank
Any
you for
more?
being here. That you are here means you are an artist and that you have gifts to share with the world. And we want to see you share them and build community with you, altruistic, regenerative community with you. And if we can help you with mead in any way, hit us up. And maybe we'll do a party where art gets to be shown. March 28th at Emerald Village in Vista. That's the next mead party.
Ooh.
So get your tickets on our website today. They'll go up as they run out. Right now they're $40 a ticket. I'm thinking we shift the format. We were talking about noon to 4, but I think we need to make it like 3 to 8. Or does that sound better?
I like that.
Yeah. And I think we'll share meat and we'll share art and we'll share music and we'll create community and we'll get to do this making it in real life thing together. So we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, bring the creativity together. All right, cool. Well, Frank, you're one of the best people. And love you and appreciate you.
Same. Love you and appreciate you.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for being on the pod again, and we'll have you on again. You know, we'll come on back.
Couple years. More water under the bridge.
We'll check in on you and see how your 5-year plan's looking.
Great. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers. Thank you for listening, and just know that there's a lot more where that came from. Tuesday, we'll be presenting our next guest. Thursday, you'll get to hear them answer the question section. And then Saturday, we'll be dropping the full-length episode.